All systems go.
My hair's gone all flat from my hat.
Isle of Man arrival, take one.
I drift, I'm a drifter, it is something that I do. I never cared much for routine or discipline like you. If you're born adrift, then drifting's what you're gonna do. Some of us, we choose to drift a lifetime through. And all the things they said I could have done, I'll never get to do. 'Cause I was born adrift. Do you like drifting? Do you like drifting? I'm a bit like you.
Here we go, wife. Welcome to the Isle of Man.
After our Mexico video, Greg and I immediately began discussing our next journey.
And I said, well, I'm going to the Isle of Man in October to film. Why don't we to do a show? So why don't we make that our next travel video?
And I pointed out Isle of Man does not really seem very exotic.
And I said the Isle of Man is beautiful and wonderful, and it has an on-road racetrack. And so eventually it was agreed that I would plan our Isle of Man adventures, and so I've been keeping it from Lady Felicity, what we're going to be doing over the next 6 days as we travel around the Isle of Man, see what we can find, and by plan...
You mean wing it?
While Lady Felicity may have believed I was totally making it up as I went along, I had at least found us some accommodation. Milntown, the island's only historical estate, with 15 acres of gardens and woodlands set around the manor.
And while I feared Greg may have planned for us to be in a tent in those woods, he had actually done well on this one.
While Lady Felicity conducted a tour of the apartment, I had to prepare for my show that evening.
And by prepare, he means wing it.
Contrary to what she's going to try and claim in the voiceover, I am not currently doing research to plan the holiday well in advance of that, and currently doing stuff to plan tonight's show. So, with a brief planning session done, we went straight to the Studio Theatre in Douglas.
Sort of.
I'm kind of hoping there's going to be a sign that says theatre.
Independent Living Centre. That does not sound good.
Well, that's a way out. That's a no entry. So that's a no entry. Well, how do we get in? Pedestrian access to the school on the left. I don't particularly want pedestrian access to the school. I want car access to the school. If we can just find... Okay, left turn here. Let's try this one. No through road to unauthorised traffic. I'm going to assume we're authorised traffic. I don't see the theatre yet.
Luckily, we found the theatre eventually, and in time for the show.
No, look for the evening. By the time I've mentioned clapping, you're already too late. Just let it go. And they would all sit there holding hands. And the lights would go out. They always did. It makes magic a lot easier. The lights would go out and you'd be sitting there in pitch blackness. I won't do that trick then. Okay, so this is the moment. Penny, my eyes are up here. Not yet. Okay, hold on. There we go!
The next morning I refueled on coffee as we moved on to our exploration of the island.
Good morning.
Good morning, dear.
Which apparently hadn't woken you up quite enough. Nice bit of you poking yourself in the eye there.
That was not me out with a key.
And we have 2 recommendations from the nice chap that was helping us set up last night.
Steve. combination of technician, theatre manager,
The theatre was his baby.
basically running the whole show.
It was lovely. But yes, he recommended we go to Port
The south.
Erin.
Basically, Port Erin.
That's for my basking sharks.
Basking sharks.
And the other one,
Basking sharks.
the other place was
The
somewhere
Sound.
pretty. The Sound, that was it.
Which is our current destination.
Really?
Both places that were already on my list, and both places we're better off going to while the sun's shining.
Yay! So is that what we're doing today?
That's our first step.
The reason I was so excited at this news was that the Sound, an area overlooking the smaller Calf of Man Island, is famous for its seals.
And its cafe.
So, how was that then?
I am so you're taking me away. I could stay there for all day and just look at seals.
Your question was there going to be enough to do on the other thing?
That is true. But
Oh, beautiful seals already.
beautiful seals, true day one, beautiful seals.
Unfortunately, our next stop in Port Erin to try and spot basking sharks was less fruitful, but worth a visit anyway with a sealed up Lady Felicity. Next, I decided to give Lady Felicity the chance to search for one of her favourite fossils, crinoids.
They look like tiny little flowers on stems, shaped like stars.
To start with, Lady Felicity was still finding modern wildlife.
Our search continued until we found what we were looking for. So at home, crinoids, sea lilies, related to starfish, they actually have a lovely star shape. So you'd have a long stem, and then on the end of it, you'd have a little star. Whereas the crinoids here, they tend to be round on the tips instead.
Lack of time meant that my third plan for the day of visiting Castle Rushen would have to be postponed.
As we looked around the estate at Milntown the next morning, Greg seemed oddly conspiratorial. I began to worry that he might have more plans than I had thought.
I've arranged something a bit different once we get into Douglas. We're not just going to have the walk around Douglas like I was planning. It's not animal related, don't get excited. It's not something that's usually your cup of tea. It is, however, something I can guarantee nobody else is going to have a video of.
Possible video.
First, we had to get to Douglas, which meant we had to take a ride on the island's electric tram.
We could also have driven, of course, but show Greg anything close to a steam train and he wants a go.
It's sort of a weirdly steampunk sort of train, considering it's actually also sort of the death of steampunk. I don't know why the electric lights it's got and things like that say steampunk to me. It is Victorian. It's late Victorian, came in the last couple of years of the 19th century, and it's a couple of the cars they have are actually the oldest electric tram cars in the world. They're Guinness World Record certified. and yet that means that this is being one of the earliest electric trams. In fact, before that, a lot of the stuff was standardised. There's a lot of stuff that's unique to the Manx Electric Railway. But it means that this was one of the things that started to get rid of the steam railways. This is the birth of electric trains and the death of the steam railway. And so I should be like, no, end of steam, and I can't. It's too beautiful.
The leisurely tram ride ended and our task that day began. We were in Douglas to rob a museum.
You're off. Go.
Well, sort of. Greg had arranged for us to take part in an estate room, a puzzle challenge against the clock. Normally, they would never allow this to be filmed, but as the team at Exit Strategy were replacing their jewel theft room at the end of the day, we found ourselves battling the laser grid.
As Lady Felicity declared it would be unsporting of me to pick the locks, we began a panicked hunt for clues.
It's Steve not. That's a really weird name.
Is there different dates? 1509 here?
I'm a glorious and rare beautiful being, so bring everything with the light, you cannot catch me.
Try 14th of February.
I'm not sure they help at all. You've got close, there's nothing left in there. This must matter.
Oh gosh.
Mine's a mermaid. Mermaid, put the mermaid.
Mermaid is here.
Lions. Give them a gas now. More lemon jewels. Okay.
Now what?
Well, now we're just going to get the diamonds. Easy, just stopped. Okay.
You did it! Well done!
Now.
Oh, only just!
Oh, with one or two hints.
And there's my diamond.
Victory was achieved. Just.
Thanks again to Exit Strategy for letting us bring the cameras in.
As we went out in the rain the next day, it was Greg's turn to get excited.
So, steam railway. It's just wonderful how much the island you can actually get across by the old trains. If we wanted to, we could have done the electric railway that we did all the way from Ramsey down to Douglas, and then we could have just changed straight onto the steam railway and carry on all the way down to Port Erin. We didn't have time, unfortunately. But
Having heard about the trains, I began to understand why Greg had been so happy to plan this trip. Then in Greg's world, disaster struck as our train pulled into the station.
So we've changed our plans again in the rain. Beautiful little steam railway, and we saw the beautiful little steam train came in, narrow gauge steam train come in, heading for Douglas. We're waiting for our crossover one to head to Port Erin, and the one coming in for Port Erin didn't have a steam train on it. Looks like a diesel replacement service. So we've quickly run across. We've asked them very nicely if we can just go to Douglas and back instead. We weren't actually planning to end up anywhere on the steam train particularly. We just wanted to go, well, I say we, I just wanted to go on the steam train. I like the steam trains. And so yeah, they've said we can go to Douglas and back instead. That makes life a little bit more complicated because I now have to find out whether we're going to get back in time to actually do the castle in Castletown. But we are on the steam train, and it's just a different feeling. We got steam going past the window. It's not the same, people. And I know there are diesel fans out there, and if you like your diesel trains, good for you. I like a steam train.
You and your steam trains.
The Isle of Man Railway runs 15.3 miles of a network which ran 46 miles in its heyday, and it's said to be the inspiration for the Thomas the Tank Engine books. Although a different train story occurred to me.
What is it?
There's a little girl in the road waving red knickers.
Really?
No, just the railway children.
Hilarious jokes aside, it was a lovely ride to Douglas. Once there, the passengers disembarked in the rain. Greg filmed his steam train in the rain.
And as for Lady Felicity...
I'm not wet, I'm good. The train crew loaded the coal. Greg filmed his train.
And as for Lady Felicity...
Get in here, you crazy person. It's better. Sometimes Greg claims his enjoyment of steam trains is because of their look. Sometimes he claims it is intellectual. Really, though, we returned to Castletown as the rain continued to pour. A combination of days playing on the trains and pouring rain meant that our trip to Castle Rushen would be postponed again. Looks like a castle to me.
It's a bit wet then.
The next day saw the weather change and a different castle in our sights. On St Patrick's Isle, at the entrance to Peel Harbour, Peel Castle was first built in the 11th century by the Vikings, although the majority of the walls seen today date from the 14th century.
We interrupt Greg's attempt at a historical documentary to bring you a beautiful seal.
According to legend, this imposing fortress, looking out across the sea, had a more supernatural animal to be seen.
I do have to be a little bit careful when we get into the castle, because there is a ghost. Now, let's be clear, you will not be allowed to take the ghost home with you if you find it, no matter how cute you find it.
Wants to come with us.
Apparently, they do have a ghost dog.
Oh.
Following this piece of information, I was bravely told to enter the castle first, and inside, I got a surprise. The legend, first written down in 1731, refers to Muth Doog, a large shaggy-haired dog seen in every room of the castle.
We interrupt Greg's ghost story with something truly scary.
So Flick's just heading into the guard rope. Usable by up to 3 soldiers at a time.
You gotta go. So, you just...
Yeah.
Ew. Good thing I went before we left. That poor invaders that had to crawl up that, though. I think I'd rather lose the war, thanks.
It's bad for the invader. What about the man sitting on the loo at the time?
The ghostly dog would come and lay with the soldiers by the fire.
Yes.
The last sighting of the dog was by a guard, who after one too many drinks went to lock up the castle gates alone. What happened is unknown, but noises were heard from the passage most commonly haunted by the dog, and the guard returned, shaken up, to pass away within 3 days. At least that's the story.
Oh, look at that atmospheric wind blowing through,
I know. I say this feels more like an oubliette. It's dripping now.
Why do you always have that wind blowing out of the tube?
ghost dogs aside, the castle found Greg in a philosophical mood.
It's strange though, because we thought about it when we were with the Mayans about how they'd disappeared. But this castle is centuries of building work, and now it's just home to rabbits. And all these beautiful buildings just left to fall apart.
It turned out that Greg had found still more railways on the island.
Yes, please. The Snaefell Mountain Railway would take us past the Laxey Wheel to see the view from the peak at 2,037 feet above sea level, from where it is claimed you can see 7 kingdoms.
An optimistic claim at the best of times, but as we rose into the mist, we would have been happy to see just one.
From the top, they say you can see the kingdoms of Manx, England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Heaven, and Neptune. We could see the cafe.
It's alright, it's plain enough mist, we should be able to superimpose a view later.
The time it took to eat a slice of cake, however, was time for the mist to clear enough to show us some of the stunning views.
We had to get back on the tram to finally make it to Castle Rushen.
After several aborted attempts, we had arrived at a building which had once been a castle, a mint, a prison, a parliamentary meeting place, a law court, and now a museum.
Where Lady Felicity found the history of confusion between our two islands goes back a long way.
They say that they even got it here. They confused our islands. So in your jokes, how you say people keep saying, oh, how's the flooding, meaning here, but we're Isle of Wight, they got it wrong even back then.
I like that they had the handrail installed for the invaders, just as they were coming up.
The museum combined great views with some less savoury reminders of castle life.
Oh, you didn't need that.
Not someone on the toilet, is it? Of course it is. Which way though?
And despite their historic clock appealing to Greg's steampunk side, he was more interested in the prison equipment.
I want one. Just need to figure out how you'd get out of it. It's always possible.
Yeah, but the hands are what you escape with, and if you can't move them,
Exactly.
and you can't undo that with your teeth.
No. As we continue Flick's search for a toilet.
With the castle done and after a quick stop to check on a hedgehog on the roadside, our journey ended at the Sound, where Lady Felicity just wanted to see a seal climb the rocks.
Yay! Go, little seal! Go, go! Yay! Come on, climb! Oh, such an effort, poor baby.
It's not a smooth rock, is it?
No, I wouldn't fancy doing it as Felicity the Mermaid, that's for sure.
Like doing it as me.
Thank you, baby. Okay, so we're on the way to the airport to fly back home. I think this is going to be a travel thing for me. We seem to catch the early morning flights, and I don't do mornings. So every time I do this on the way to the airport journey, I'm going to look tired and be a bit sad.
This journey has been a completely different style of journey from Mexico.
The Isle of Man feels like lots of different places in England, and each place is one of the more beautiful places. You've got all the dry stone walls that make me think of Yorkshire. You've got a lot of the countryside, which makes me think of a few places, to be fair.
A gentleman in an antique shop, actually in Peel, said to us was that the Isle of Man is Britain squashed down into sort of 200 or so square miles.
Everyone here is very chatty, which suits me down to a T. I can just chat away with people when Greg is in one of his silent, reflective moods.
We've had the escape room, we've tried that bit of things, we've seen the seals, obviously a lot of trains and trams. It's been fantastic, and it has just been nice, calm.
If we ever came back here in the summer, there's further things I would like to do, like you can catch a little boat to the Calf, where in the summer they've got puffins, and you can go whale watching and dolphin spotting, and you can see basking sharks in the summer. So if we ever come back here in the summer, there's new things I would want to do as well.
And again, and I wonder if we're going to end up saying this, and I hope we do end up saying this about every place we travel to. Once again, it has been incredibly welcoming, and it is just nice to be made welcome when you're travelling to turn up in a place and not feel you're being treated as an outsider or anything else, but just being welcomed in by people that want to show you the beauty of their country, and people have given us thoughts and recommendations, and I am already booking to come back and do another show here next year.
Well worth a visit. Very, very pretty place. Once again, looking forward to going home and being snuggled by my pets and seeing everybody. But still melancholy that the holiday is over and we have to go back home. I'm just relieved home is also a pretty place.
We are sad to be finishing this particular holiday. We do have another one booked in less than a month. Our next travel will be heading off to Turkey. But it's always, that drive to the airport is always one of the harder bits of the holiday. And I always hope that it is, because if we're ever happy to be going back to the airport, we've done something wrong. Airport should be just around the corner.
I drift, I'm a drifter, it is something that I do. I never cared much for routine or discipline like you. If you're born adrift, then drifting's what you're gonna do. Some of us, we choose to drift a lifetime through. Or do we choose how that's part of it? Decisions come and go. Rigid expectations, the only thing a drifter knows. And all the things they said I could have done, I'll never get to do. 'Cause I was born adrift. Do you like drifting? Do you like drifting? I'm a bit like you. I drift, I'm a drifter, and it's really nothing new. I was the lesser spotted drifting bird way back when in school. Chase a new horizon, faces strange and magic. Some are filled with comedy and some are extra tragic. Some are making no plans and they're the best at what they do. I knew I was a drifter without knowing how I multitude of shapes and sizes. You're generally not driven by your money, trophies, prizes.
Has it got a tail? Has it got a tail?
No, it was a nice first one.
We did
And we
better
showed it on camera.
We did better than we did with the Jaguar. We actually got it on camera. It was either a Manx cat or an unlucky cat,
Unlucky
you know?
cat, yeah.